Master Your Mindset Radio, episode 98.
Welcome to Master Your Mindset Radio, the show where we empower you to discover your true self before the world told you differently. Now for your host, Elizabeth Nader.
Hi friends, welcome back to another episode. I just want to tell you how glad I am that you tune in every week if you do, and let me talk to you for a little bit, hopefully to inspire you, make you think, encourage you. I am encouraged when I look at the stats and I'm watching the audience go up on this podcast every week. That's pretty cool. So definitely tell your friends about it, and the opportunity to be able to speak with you for a precious few minutes is awesome. So thank you for your continued dedication to listening. And we're nearing 100 episodes, which is pretty awesome. So that's an exciting milestone for me. I'm going to be interviewing someone for that episode who has gone through a lot in his life and achieved amazing things considering some of the challenges he's faced. So hopefully that episode will be inspiring for you as well. But for today, we're going to talk about comparison. Comparison is something that people struggle with all over the place. All of us at some point or another, inherently, we have a tendency to compare ourselves to other people. And sometimes it comes out in the form of jealousy, but often it comes out more in the form of self-deprecation, where we in fact feel that we are less than because we compare ourselves to other people. So I think it's a worthy topic to talk about quickly because it's something that we need to understand and get control of. If we don't, it really provides a lot of dissatisfaction in our life to constantly be comparing ourselves against others when we're not even sometimes aware that we're doing it. There's a great quote that is attributed to Theodore Roosevelt, although I've heard it so many times at this point, I don't know if he for sure said this, but it's comparison is the thief of joy. Comparison is the thief of joy. Mark Twain is said to have also proclaimed comparison is the death of joy. Either way, death of joy or thief of joy, you get the point. When we are in a mode and mindset of comparison, we will extinguish the joy from our life. I know you believe this if you're honest with yourself. I know that you've experienced it. If you really think about the times that you've maybe struggled or been down or felt less than, are they often not a result of comparing yourself, being hard on yourself, thinking you should be where someone else is? We do it a lot. We do it a lot. It's something that is part of human nature. But what's gotten worse in the past few years is that social media, and of course the media in general, but especially social media, forces us into a zone of comparison all the time. Think about when you're scrolling through any of your social media accounts. What are you doing? You're looking at the highlight reels usually from someone else's life, from their business. Most people go on social media to celebrate things that are happening for them, or, even to be honest and encourage others, but do it in a way to show that you too can achieve or break through, or even just celebrating something that's happened in their life. And of course, there's nothing wrong with that. They're wanting to share with family and friends. People normally aren't going to post something negative about their life. They're not going to post their darkest days. You just don't see that. And if you do, it's rare and it definitely sticks out. So think about the psychology of scrolling through social media. And what you're really doing is you're comparing yourself, if you're not careful, to somebody's highlight reel. You're comparing your, as they say in the business, your B-reel or your raw tape or just your everyday life to someone's highlight reel that they're posting. Now, you know better. You know that people don't present all sides of their life in this medium, but yet it can have the tendency to make us feel less than in whatever way that may be. Whatever you're struggling with, whatever you haven't achieved yet, whatever you're hoping for in your life, when you see someone else there or apparently there, if you're not careful, you can compare yourself. Now, this may not be straight up envy. It's not that I'm saying that you're envious or jealous. Comparison doesn't have to lead to envy, but it definitely is a reaction that says, why am I not there yet? I should be there yet. I need to work harder, or I wish I were that lucky, or why can't I get to that point? It doesn't have to be jealousy where you're not happy for someone else, where you don't feel good about them achieving. Comparison is enough to cause us to feel insecure, to cause us to be upset, to cause us to lose our joy. Just the simple act of comparing where you are with where you believe and assume somebody else is. In two ways, of course. One way we compare is that we think someone else is in a better place than we are. That's the obvious one. We think they've achieved something we haven't. We think that they're happier, or that they have something that we're hoping to get to at some point. We think that they're better than us in that regard. So what does that do? Makes you feel unqualified. Makes you feel as though you haven't achieved things. Makes you feel as though you have not been successful or not in that area. What it's really doing is making you feel as though you haven't been enough, when in fact, it's very likely that God is pleased himself with the momentum in your life, that you are in fact in a place where you're supposed to be, and that is all happening for a reason, and that it's good, and that God is actually pleased with where you are. But when we look to others and we say they're in a better place, they have better things, they have more achievements, or they're where I need to be, if we do it in a way that makes us feel less than, not in a way that encourages us or inspires us, then we're basically saying that we're not where we're supposed to be. And in fact, we're deciding and pronouncing and passing judgment on ourselves for that. I think in that circumstance, rather, I would want to know if God thinks I'm where he wants me to be. And in fact, that what I have achieved and what I have done so far is in fact exactly what he has asked of me, and exactly what my specific path needs to be. That how do you compare? How do you compare to someone else when you are uniquely made, uniquely called, uniquely qualified, and therefore you live a unique life? Everything about you is different and unique. Yet we have a tendency to do this comparison, which makes us question our progress. Well, here's the other side of it. The other side of it is that we look at someone and we think they're in a worse place than we are. It makes us think, well, I've arrived, they haven't. I mean, it smacks of judgment and it feels harsh, but we also as humans have a tendency to do that. But that assumes that you're where you're supposed to be. But what if you have a greater capacity and you actually need to be pushing yourself? It's a sense that, oh, I'm in a great place, they're not, which is a horrible thing to think towards somebody else. But that's another aspect of comparison. If you've ever looked at someone's life and you felt better about yours versus feeling more grateful about yours, then you're in the mode of comparison that will not bring you joy. Now that's different than looking at someone else's situation and thanking God for your situation. Thanking God that you don't deal with that specific issue. Praying for them, hoping for them, believing for them that things in that part of their life will improve or whatever that is, but looking at your own life, and rather than thinking that you are superior in some way, in fact, you are humbled by that. And you are grateful for what you have. And you also recognize that God may require more of you in that area, that he's given you a greater capacity and called you to do more in that area. That's how you look at someone else who's in a different place than you are. So we have to be very, very careful with comparison. And in all cases, we really don't know the full story in anyone's life. It's so difficult to compare when you don't really know all the details. You couldn't possibly know what's going on in someone else's life to the point where comparison has any meaning at all. I think it's okay to look at someone's life and say, wow, I'm inspired by that. I think that's a fair reaction to looking at someone who is in a better place in a certain area than you are, or has achieved more in a certain area, and you feel as though you can do that as well, and you feel inspired and motivated. That's an okay reaction. Or, as I said before, when you look at someone who's struggling with something, that you feel for them, you pray for them, you hurt for them, but you also say, I am so grateful for what I have. I am so grateful, and because I am so blessed in that area, I need to do more. I need to give more. I need to recognize that God's given me a greater capacity. Those are two very valuable reactions to what would otherwise be comparison that would steal our joy. But the issue really is timing, and we don't know timing in everybody's life. God has timing for everybody. So if you were to look at someone's life and say, I think I need to be where they are, maybe they are at the end in something and you are just simply at the beginning. Maybe they're in the middle and you're at the beginning. Maybe you're just in different places in regards to that particular avenue of your life. So where are you at in your story? Where are they at in their story? And how does one have to do with the other? We each have our own path. And comparison simply will make us feel unsatisfied, or in some ways either unsatisfied and unhappy, or in other ways make us have a false sense of achievement, when in fact God's asking for us to do more with what He's given us. There's an incredible verse in John where Jesus is having a conversation with Peter, and it may not seem like a big verse, but it jumps out at me because I believe it has to do with comparison and how Jesus was saying to us, why are you comparing yourself to others? It's actually in John 21:21, but the context of the story is God is talking to Peter about really what will happen to him and the price that he's asking for him to pay to follow him. And it's very specific to Peter, and it speaks to his future. And at some point, Peter turns to Jesus and says, Lord, what about him? And he's talking about John. And Jesus looks at Peter, and I can imagine just saying to him, almost shaking his head, like, what do you mean? He says, if I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? You must follow me. What he's basically saying is, what does he have to do with you, Peter? What does John's path and John's future and John's fate and what will happen to John, what does that have to do with you? I am talking specifically to you, Peter, about your life, about your path, and about your calling. So I really think that this verse, John 21:21, is so much about how unique our calling is and how dangerous it is for us to compare ourselves to anyone else or wonder with God why with someone else, why He chooses to do whatever He chooses to do in their lives. Why ask that question? What does that have to do with you? I think that is a powerful portion of Scripture that should remind us how specific God is in our world and in terms of our calling and our purpose. And the best way for us to get away from comparison is to look at and understand what God has not only blessed us with already, but what also He has for us if we pursue the purpose that He's put inside of us. So you need to know purpose. The more that you know your purpose, the more you will understand your uniqueness and the less you will feel the need to compare. And truly, you then become grateful. And gratitude, attitude of gratitude, is probably the best antidote to comparison. Grateful people are happy. It's true. Grateful people are extremely happy. They understand what they have and why it should matter. And that keeps them from the game of comparison. And really, at the end of all of this, seeking to understand your uniqueness and your purpose. As I always say, you were created on purpose for a purpose, and that God has a plan for you. And that verse in John talks about the fact that why are you comparing yourself to someone else? I have something for you. I have something for them. They're different and unique. So seeking to understand your purpose and pursuing it is also the best way to avoid the trap of comparison. And really, the only person you should compare yourself to is yourself, because that's where self-improvement lies. That's where pushing yourself and seeking out the best for your life and understanding who you are and what God wants you to be, that's where that comes from, is comparing yourself to yourself, not in a harsh way, not in an unforgiving way, but in a way that makes you push for all that you have in your destiny so you can experience everything you were meant to experience and be grateful. Be grateful for everything you've been given, everything that's coming to you. And put on the blinders. Don't compare to others, because what does that have to do with you? Have a great week, guys. Talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening to Master Your Mindset Radio. Before you go, please visit ElizabethNader.com to learn more about the Mindset Maven and how she is guiding high performers to map their mindset to their message so they can effectively express who they are and why their ideas should win. Looking forward to seeing you online.